Hey, before we start, I just wanted to let you know this episode is brought to you by Men's Map. Go here to find it. I think we're recording a podcast now.
All right.
Oh, I appreciate you doing this.
Awesome. This is exciting.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey everyone, my name's Tiffanie and I am a fine artist and illustrator currently living in San Diego. I never know how to introduce myself.
I don't know either. I mean, it's
it
like
always changes.
I found like me being on camera is a really, like, being scripted is really difficult, but talking this way has gotten a lot easier for me. It's way more organic.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
Like, I don't know, I ramble a lot.
Oh, I do too. Don't worry.
I also don't like censoring myself at all. Like, I mean, I don't say that much absurd stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, I guess when I'm also saying something that's scripted, I become a lot more
tense.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have to perform. I have to do this.
Yeah.
But I guess when people click on this thing, they expect a certain amount of nonsense. I think it's like just a long format.
I think
show,
being true and just like you said, being uncensored. I think that's important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I guess the point is, like, I have no interest in talking to people about technique at all. Art technique,
I remember you said that.
The point of it is more of like the why of art. Like, when I look at somebody like you, you're somebody who works really hard at your craft. You know, you've made a point of doing it traditionally. You know, you teach a lot of people, and
yes, I do love teaching.
And it's like, why not pursue law or medicine, or it's like. There's more money there. I mean, I know why, but like, there's like an objective element to being an artist that you earn less money. It's harder.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm in that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, where I'm taking a risk. Well, why not law and accounting? Both my parents are accountants.
Yeah.
And I just think I was just not born with that. Like, it was just, sometimes I joke that I was adopted because I don't have that brain at all.
Yeah.
Like business brain. Somehow I was just drawn to
drawn.
Yeah, no pun intended. I mean, art is, like, not even exaggerating, is like really my life. Like, I know I wouldn't be able to not paint and keep painting. And it's funny, so my friend asked me this question. We actually did this live IG talk, and we thought it'd be fun to like write questions to answer, or write questions beforehand. The answer, and one of the questions he asked was, would you still paint if there's no one else on the world and you're stranded on an island? No one would see it. And he said no. And he's a fantastic painter. He's my mentor. I'm actually working with him on a course series right now. And I was like, of course, because I paint for me. And I think that's what's so fulfilling. Like, if I feel like, even if no one was there to see it, I feel like I can still get something out of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and I think it's like, at that point, you're like, I think there's a deeply spiritual element to that particular thing. It's like, you'd still be doing it even if you weren't getting any of the credit or the money or any. It's like fundamentally part of who you are.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel.
And it's like you're still communicating ideas, maybe with yourself or with whatever the idea of God is, or whatever you want to call it. I'm really curious about that particular thing that causes people to pursue creative mastery in general. It's like, even when I meet people and I talk to them and I know that they've gone through the same gauntlet of pursuing art to a masterful level, I could like that there's like an unspoken respect there. I take all of their ideas more seriously because I see a bar for quality that they've achieved. That's like, okay, so that bar for quality has been achieved, so every other idea must be at least decent. And I don't know, it's like
it's something like what you said about how artists keep like I feel like there's this notion that, like, people think painting is easy, and I actually just kind of wrote in my stories today, but I had this first thought, I think a couple of years back, and I was painting, and now in my creative journey, painting more than ever is like I realized painting more than ever is problem solving.
Yeah.
It's like people think it's like kind of spontaneous and it's emotional, and it definitely is. I mean, you are basically reflecting yourself into a painting when you're painting. But like, gosh, like I'm in my creative journey where I'm learning so much right now. Like I'm reading books, and like a lot of non-art books. See, I'm gonna go on a tangent. It's really hot.
No, it's totally fine.
And like you can learn so much from reading non-art books. But anyways, all those have helped me in realizing like art is so much problem solving. Like it becomes like half of it almost becomes problem solving. You're like constantly figuring out a problem after a problem, and it's kind of similar to science or whatever, but
absolutely.
But instead there's no right or wrong answer necessarily, so then it becomes even harder, I guess, in a way. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think art's fucking weird, man. I mean, like if
that's one way to put it.
Well, but it's like all art is just a series of decisions. It's like you're choosing one color over another, you know, and it's like, why is somebody's painting more valuable than another painting, like another person's painting? It's only because they're micro decisions, you know. It's like, what's that value relative to that value, or what's that color relative to that value? It's like, when you look at this, I mean, this scene right in front of us, like, there's so many different things you can call attention to. It's like you can paint this exact scene, but then focus entirely on the tree.
Yeah, you can.
The colors or the atmosphere.
Or the atmosphere in the back,
Yeah, and it's like, it's everything all at once, but what an artist does is it distills it down to what that person sees, like, specifically, you know? So it's almost like, it's corny, but it's really what the artist leaves out is what...
Well, the artist, the artist leaves out is just as important as what the artist chooses to leave in. And I think...
Yeah, right.
I think more than anything, it's like nowadays, you know, especially with the onset of Instagram and all that stuff, like, you know, you're bombarded with images and like so much, you know, you see so much of an artist, and it's almost overwhelming, which is why I make it a deal out. I'm like hardly on Instagram unless I post something, but it's like you see a lot of pretty images, but I have noticed that I've gotten a lot pickier, and like as my tastes develop and as I develop as an artist, like I've gotten a lot pickier on what I like and what I see that I like, and it's very interesting. Like it's almost like sometimes I observe myself as an outside person, like, wow, what I liked 2 years ago is definitely different from what I like now, and it's really interesting to me. But it's like now I can see a difference. Like, did that artist have an intent in their artwork? And I think that's something that's really important to me, and also teaching that as well. Like, what is the intent in your artwork? And maybe some people would argue, I don't know, that's where art is like, you don't need an intent, this and that. But for me, I think it's really important. But I know you don't want to get into the technical aspect.
No, well, I do. I mean, it's also like, I mean, I think it's all related. You know, it's like the only reason you can pursue the technical art is because you found such profound meaning in painting that you can endure the tedium of doing color studies or something, or whatever else, you know. And you find meaning in something that's like only you just looking at, like, oh, that's brown, you know, that's this shade of brown, I'm going to mix this specifically, you know. And I think there's something really beautiful and amazing about that idea. Like, you have the choice of going skydiving or jet skiing or playing video games or whatever else, but instead you're looking at a painting, you know? It's
that's definitely what brings me. Yeah, I could stare at a painting in a museum.
Yeah. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the conversation. I just wanted to take a second to say this episode is sponsored by Men's Map. It's Ahmed Dori's painting course that he released last year, where he goes through his step-by-step process for teaching you guys how to digitally paint. He starts with basic cubes and then moves on to more complex shapes like portraits and figures. And then he shows you how to use those for things like concept art and complex illustrations. He teaches his entire curriculum for what he'd be teaching at a real college like Art Center or Cal Arts or something, but at a fraction of the cost. So if you were to go to Art Center, you'd be spending $3,000 or $4,000 on a class, but if you take it with Ahmed, you get to learn everything that he would teach inside the actual class environment, which to me is way better because, one, you get to keep the actual access to the class after you finish the course, whereas with a college, after the end of the 10 weeks or 15 weeks or whatever, you don't get to rewatch the episodes. It just disappears, you know, and it also costs 10 times as much. When it comes to trying to promote things and sponsors for this podcast, I really only want to try and promote things that I believe in. And I think Ahmed Dori is one of my favorite artists and teachers, and he's been pretty helpful to me in my development as an artist. I think that his painting course is one of the best ones out there, and I hope you guys check it out. Well, and it's like,
Nothing more brings me joy than like actually going to a museum and seeing paintings.
And that's so cool. I mean, I think it's like the thing I've learned from all these, like talking to so many people, is that it's not about your specific limitations or anything. It's about what you can see in the world. You know, the only thing you're ever limited by is what you can see. It's like you can choose to sit in bed and do nothing, or you can go and paint a picture, you know, and which one
choose to see everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, but it's a choice. You know? And it's and I'm really starting to see that success in the way that everyone wants success and validation is way more about a consistent daily effort to try and see value in the world versus like just being lucky, you know, just starting out with more advantages than someone else, you know? Yeah.
Like, I think you said, did you say on one of your podcasts you don't believe in luck, or was that free will?
It was probably free will.
Free will, yeah.
Well,
it's sorry, that's a little different.
It's kind of I think free will is a very complicated question.
Oh, so complicated.
You know? Well, I think it's like the idea of it is like, okay, you can say that you enjoy painting, right? But how much of that is influenced by like some random thing when you were a kid?
Personality or what we're innately built in us or something.
Well, and it's like you could say that, your parents were accountants, so theoretically you should have been an accountant, but there's something that grips you about like I really don't think people can choose what they're interested in, you know?
Interesting.
Like, I think it's the idea of the muse, you know?
Like, so you think that it was like planted
or given to you by something, right?
By divine nature.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think that. I mean, I don't want to believe it's arbitrary nonsense. Like, it's just random that you become an artist. Like, the fact that you get to, like, that you care about one thing over the other is so, like, you could care about literally anything, right? You could care about being a gardener or a banker or underwater welding or being an astronaut or whatever, and there are infinite things you could pay attention to. But for some reason, you're like, I want to be a painter, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's not, it's either completely random and the chances of you being a painter is like 1 in infinity, or there's a reason that you're a painter, you know? And I think
I like to think there's a reason.
Well, exactly. And it's like, if you believe there's a reason, then it's like, oh shit, it's like, I'm actually a painter because there's a reason.
Yeah.
That means it's important that I keep doing it.
Yes.
You know, it's part of who I am fundamentally.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I
would say I agree with that.
Yeah. It's like a,
definitely wasn't born to be cybersecurity or computer science.
Dude,
I know that in 100 years I wouldn't be able to do that.
I wish I was, because I can make more money.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. Yeah, I know. My brother is a computer science, and I'm just like, you can afford a house. You could do anything right now. And I'm like,
dude, you make so much money.
So much money. And he's 5 years younger than me, so it's hard not to feel pathetic sometimes, but
it's worth it, and I think
it's worth it.
I mean, I was in Peru a couple weeks ago, and the average wage there is like $300 a month.
That's insane.
In Colombia, a doctor makes $6,000 a year, right? It's like
a year.
A year. It's crazy, right? It's like completely different worlds, and we like look at our. I was talking to someone else about this who is in the whole world of education and like the world of games and all this kind of stuff, and they're around, like, they make good money, you know, but then they're around people that are making $10 million, $20 million a year or something, and it's like you could be making be wealthy anywhere else in the world and feel subconscious about how little money you have, you know, and it's like
it's all relative.
It's completely relative, you know. I think it's all about where you are on your path versus where anyone else is on the path.
It's so easy to compare yourself and be like, oh, look at, but I think one thing I constantly remind myself is like, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, because you don't know what path another person might be on. They may seem really happy on the outside, but maybe other things are going on, but it's nothing is equal per se. Like, you can't compare them on equal playing fields. And
absolutely,
like you said, I mean, I wish art was I mean, I'm sure there's people out there that are making tons of money and they're in art, but for me, I listen to your podcast, Marco Bucci, and very similar. It's like we both got into education, and I love education. I love teaching people. I love mentoring students, and I think that's something that I'll always do. And it might not bring the most income, but at the end of the day, I think I know that I could be happy doing that.
Well, and I think it's like, again, I think the thing that we should be striving for is, it's not money or status.
No.
It's meaning. You know,
Meaning,
it's like,
yeah.
what's the thing
Yeah.
that gets you out of bed every day? You know, it's
Yeah.
like, because honestly, like eating Oreos and watching cartoons is pretty fucking awesome. You know, it's like it just releases so much dopamine that it's hard to for that to compete with
I don't think
anything
I've
else.
ever done that.
Well, okay, but like maybe you have a version of that.
I don't.
Maybe I'm lazier, but
No, by the way, my knowledge of pop culture is absolutely terrible. So
Okay,
if you
yeah.
make the pop culture jokes, I don't get it. It's because I somehow grew up under a rock. So
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I guess it's like being lazy or being like why not be hedonistic? Why not do drugs? Why not do any of this
Right.
stuff? You know, it's like, and again, it's like trying to make art something that you would choose to do over anything else. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that starts with being honest with yourself and
Yeah.
being
Oh, yeah,
like,
for
I'm
sure.
I'm at where I'm at. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not this person with millions
Yeah.
of followers. I haven't been training for years. Maybe I'm 50 years old, and that's okay. You know, like I think when people get obsessed with their status, or
Yeah.
maybe they started too late, maybe they don't have money or
Yeah.
followers or something, they're not zooming out enough where it's like, if the reality, the actual truth of the matter is that there have been 108 billion people that have lived, and you have no idea who they are, and you're focused on like maybe 100,000.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? Or you're focused on, you know, like it just not like the correct perspective to have.
Yeah,
you know?
no, definitely. I think knowing, like you said, knowing what gets you out of bed, I
Yeah.
think is and being honest with yourself. I actually had a talk with a friend, and she's an artist too, really talented, and I actually have an interesting, like when I said in the beginning, I don't know how to describe myself. It's because I studied animation, and then after, you know, working on Loving Vincent, I sort of had this thing where I was torn between fine art and animation, and I love
Yeah.
both. I love both mediums. I love how animation can tell a story, but I love painting. Like I love creating landscapes. At the
Right.
end of the day, like it brings me so much joy to just.
Right.
I can't even describe it. Like analyze how a brushstroke, you know,
Yeah.
when you put it on, how it transforms a painting. Sounds cheesy, but
No, I think it's. I think art is fundamentally just a communication device. You know.
yeah, oh yeah,
And,
definitely, yeah.
Like you can communicate. You know, I repeat this all the time in every podcast, but talking and playing music and painting pictures, it's all trying to accomplish the same thing, which is
Yeah.
just sharing ideas.
Sharing
fundamentally.
ideas, yeah.
And I think
Sharing a story.
yeah, and I think we corrupt that idea of, you know, like we tie our value to working on specific projects. You know, it's like, oh, if I work on Star Wars or if I work on big video games or you know
Interesting,
whatever,
yeah.
that means I'll be successful. That means I'll finally have the validation that I want.
See,
you
and
know?
that's really interesting you say that, because sometimes I feel like, gosh, like I've never worked at a big studio like Pixar
Yeah.
or, you know, or Disney or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, Loving Vincent was a really great film to work on, and then I did work at Cartoon Saloon, which was my dream studio to work at. Unfortunately, I didn't get to move to Ireland, but
Yeah.
I was still able to work remote. But it's like sometimes it gets to be all about like, you know, like those names, like you can pop those
right.
names, like you see on people's Instagrams, like DreamWorks, Sony, blah blah blah
Yeah,
blah
yeah.
blah, and you kind of start to feel small. And when it's those moments, like you have to remind yourself, what am I being honest with myself? Like,
Right.
what is my true passion? And for me, it's teaching, it's traveling. Like
Yeah.
that's why I admire you so much, because for me, I know that I don't want to be working like studio after studio. Like
Yeah.
for me, my goal is to combine my love for traveling, painting, and meeting people.
Yeah.
And like possibly into I'm getting, I mean, kind of getting there, but like possibly into one job, you know, like how
Yeah.
you do it. Like you
Right.
create your podcast, you travel. It takes guts to do that, you know,
well,
but
thank you.
I love meeting people, and I love seeing new places
Yeah.
and plein air painting.
Well,
so.
and I guess I'm finding that you could totally do that, but it takes the letting go of the desire for status. And I
Yeah.
still feel really self-conscious about never having worked at a big studio. I feel like what I have to offer isn't as valuable because I didn't work at Blizzard or Riot or something, you know?
But that
It's stupid. I know it's completely ridiculous, but it's like, I think it's part of it is our culture. Like we're
Yeah.
raised to worship money and wealth, and like, you know, it's like people tell you growing up you shouldn't be an artist because you won't be able to make any money. And
Yeah.
then these places pop up and it's like, oh, I can make $100,000 a year working at Riot Games, you know? It's like, that's
Damn.
a very enticing, like, hell yeah, dude, I want to make $100,000 a year working
Yeah.
on video games,
Yeah.
you know? And I really suspect that all of that, just wanting to work on big projects, it's all validation seeking, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, a question that I ask everybody is, would you be doing exactly the same thing you're doing right now if you had $1 billion? Like, imagine if you had all of the status that you dream of, right?
Okay.
All of the success, the validation of your family, your friends. Like, if you have $1 billion, you're suddenly the most successful person you know ever, right?
In the art world, or like in the world?
I guess for you in your social group, right?
Oh, okay.
Probably. You know, if not $1 billion, make it $100 billion. It doesn't matter.
100 billion? I can't even comprehend that.
But it's effectively enough money to solve the problems of your problems and everyone else around you that you know personally, right? And have tons of money to spend, right? And it's like, do you still worry about posting to Instagram? Do you still worry about?
No.
You know, it's like, well, and if it's like, if there's a job that you would still stay at, even if you had $1 billion, that probably means you get something out of it that actually means you get something out of it that is literally priceless, that you can't buy, right?
Yeah.
Which is amazing, right? It's like, okay, once you think about it that way, it's like, oh shit, it's like, if I can identify what I would be doing exactly, like very precisely, if I had all the validation and money in the world, that's what you should be doing all the time, you know?
If I had $100 billion, I would definitely travel. I would still teach, and I'd probably try to make my own film or something.
Right. Well, and it's like, I found when I asked myself that question, I don't need $1 billion to do the things I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, you need like $1 million at the very most.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, and the $1 million is generally just to like make sure you don't starve to death.
Right.
You know, you have a house in San Diego, whatever.
I can't even comprehend $1 million.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you know, but then once you identify, it's like, oh, this is, like, I don't need $1 billion. That's ridiculous. I need this amount of money. I need $200,000. I need 100. Then you can start working towards that goal, and you can start breaking down, like, what would it take for me to actually earn, you know, $1 million? And that would completely, that'd be make me set for life, right? And like, if you can become a good enough teacher and provide enough value for somebody, then you can make a course and sell it for $100 and make it a really good course, make it the best thing you've ever sold, and then sell it to 10 people per day, you know? And if it's really a good thing and if you're really helping people, people are going to share it around, people are going to resonate with you, and then you're making $1,000 a day, and if you're selling 10 per day, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, okay, the idea of being a millionaire is ridiculous until you break it down into like, oh, 10 people per day? That's not that hard, you know? It's like, I can convince 10 people per day to,
that's true. It's all about like breaking it down into
bite-sized,
into the
manageable chunks.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Or if it's like, I guess I personally would never work at a studio, but if you really want to work at a studio, like the idea of going from being a beginner to working at a studio is completely insane. It's like going and being around your art heroes, you know? Maybe you don't feel like you're good enough. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable and healthy reaction to have. And I think the right thing to do about it isn't to do nothing. It's to go and like talk to people. It's to go to art school. It's to like go approach random game companies on Steam and ask to be a concept artist just to get things under your belt, you know?
Is that what you did?
No, I guess, you know, I hear people doing, like, I guess what I'm saying is there's opportunity all around us.
Oh, yeah.
And it all goes back to the idea that it's not about the lack of opportunity in the world. It's,
you go search for it.
Yeah. It's like, you know.
Definitely, I definitely agree. And what you said, I think it's kind of like how it takes someone looking, you know, it's all about perspective in the end, I think. Do you want me to wait till?
Oh, no, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Like rewiring your perspective, I find that is so essential and important, because like you said, you could either look at it as something as like a lack of opportunity, or you could look at it as I'm put in this unique situation where I have the opportunity to drastically alter my life and make a decision to do this or that.
Yeah.
And it takes so little, I feel like. Once you succumb yourself to that, it takes so little to... Or, no, I mean, it takes a, but it can just be like once you realize it could be like this, and it's really amazing what it can do to help you see new opportunities.
Absolutely. Well, and I think a big part of it is acknowledging that, like, this is more of like a philosophical idea.
No, I like philosophy.
Well, I guess it's like always acknowledge that it's your fault. And it might not be your fault logically, but if you acknowledge that it's your fault, that means you could like do something about it. And I guess not even acknowledging it's your fault. Acknowledge that
you had some responsibility.
You had some responsibility over it.
Yeah.
Because once you have some responsibility over it, it's like, oh, you know, maybe I was fired at work because I think that somebody was talking shit about me, or maybe it's like I didn't get into this art school because of whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you could think logically, oh, that was like that.
This and this, which that's
I just got the wrong portfolio reviewer,
right.
or I didn't start early enough, or maybe like I didn't go to the right high school or something, which is like, okay, fine, maybe, sure, logically that makes sense, but that leaves you with nothing to do.
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
Okay, what do you do after that?
Shifted off responsibility on yourself.
And it's like when you accept that it's probably your fault, then it's like, I should have drawn more. Oh, I guess I'll just draw more.
Yeah, you take action.
Yeah.
That passivity or action, I think. Yeah, I think it's like one of those two things can just drastically change.
Well, and
I'm consequent.
I'm realizing it's really not about like what you're doing specifically. It's about how you do it.
Yeah.
It's like you can become a wealthy artist. And people have done it.
It's about how you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you give like an example?
Yeah, I mean, people that actually go out and help people. I mean, Thomas Kincaid is an example of somebody who became very wealthy off his paintings. People don't like him as much.
Yeah.
But
I used to love him. Now I'm like, how did I ever like his paintings?
Well, I think it's like, sorry, I'm gonna make sure that this isn't casting a shadow on there. Yeah, well, I think it's like Bobby Chiu. He's helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
Stan has helped a lot of people.
Yeah.
Bobby and Stan have a large portion of their content for free on YouTube. I think it's like 30% of their content is actually buyable. It's really good stuff still, but the entire idea of just go and help a lot of people, as many as you possibly can. Eventually it's going to work out positively for you. And I was talking to this. I've told the story before on the podcast, but so this guy, a business mentor of mine, he's worth like $300 million or some absurd amount of money. I was having lunch with him, and we're talking about he was telling me it's as difficult to start a restaurant as it is to start a $100 million company. Like when you're in a restaurant, you have to be there 12 hours a day or more.
Yeah, restaurants are really hard.
They're really hard.
I've watched some restaurants.
Yeah, it's like waiting tables, managing people.
Very hard.
Stress, and most restaurants fail, right? And if you start a $100 million company, it actually might take as much effort, like actual physical man hours, and actually brain power too, because you're managing people.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But the difference between a restaurant and a $100 million company is, with the same amount of work, you're, maybe serving 200 people in a night, 300, 1,000 people even, but with a $100 million company, you're operating at tens of thousands or millions of people,
Right.
So it's like, it just, like, thinking about it differently, like, okay, I want to be worth $1 billion. Okay, how do I do that? I have to start something that everyone uses, It's like, okay, maybe choosing something that's already established is the wrong, like building a car company is probably the wrong thing to do,
Okay.
Or like, it's hard to become a billionaire off starting something that's pre-established. But the world is changing so quickly, and everyone's niches are so specific that you probably have something that, only you could come up with that could be.
So about finding your niche. Is that
it goes back to the idea of like you finding exactly who you are, like,
right,
and not being compromising with, like what you want to do. Essentially.
Right. That's interesting because I took a business class, like a kind of geared for Instagram, and one of the things she said, which I thought was good, was. Her name is Vanessa Lau. She said, one of the first things you should do when you're making a YouTube channel or Instagram is finding your niche. Yeah. And really thinking about that and being clear. Because like you said, there's so many people who do the same thing. And nowadays it's like so easy to copy what people do. So like for me, it was like, I had to give some thought, like what makes me stand out against all the other amazing artists? Like why would people want to come to me to teach? Yeah. Sometimes I still don't know why, but it's like, why would people want to come to me versus someone else? Like what do I have to offer? What is my unique standpoint? And I think giving those things serious thought, I think is important. And sometimes it's so easy to be so fast paced. I think sometimes people don't give give that.
Well, I think that's actually the only question to answer. It's like, what can I offer that anyone else can?
I remember you said that.
That's the only thing you can. That's the only problem to solve, really.
So you ask people that when you meet them.
Yeah. That's the only thing. It's like, why? It's like, what's different about you than anyone? Like, why would somebody have 1 million followers on Instagram versus somebody else who does the same exact thing on paper, right?
Right.
It's like, okay, there's a reason, you know.
Right.
And it's like, when you look at any of the famous art teachers online, I'm going to use Stan specifically because we both know him. He's teaching academic drawing.
Yeah.
It's really fucking boring, you know? It's boring, you know? It's tedious to watch, right? It's like, you know, it's like site size is boring, you know? It's like, why would, you know, but he has 2.5 million followers, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, there's something
So you
there.
must be doing something right.
Exactly, something different.
That's something different.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, you look at all these people, like, you know, I think Beeple is another good example. Like,
Who?
Beeple, the NFT artist.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm so bad with names. I'm sorry.
He's the guy that sold the NFT collection for like $69 million.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard of him. I'm not super into NFTs.
Let me think. I mean, it, like, I guess pretty much anyone that has created some kind of niche, it's like Facebook obviously now is like, oh, of course, yeah, social media site, but not like, I'm sure at the time it was a horrible idea, you know. It's like, oh, you should have been doing something else,
it's so interesting. Like when I read about companies that are big now, it's so inspirational. Like, what was I just reading the other day that was completely, what was it? Like I read about the top 5 companies that started, like, I forgot which one it was. Google started in a garage. I might be totally quoting this wrong, but anyways, companies that we now know as staples, they all started in someone's garage.
They all did. Yeah.
And it's like crazy to me about. It's like they just believed in their idea and they pushed through, and like that gives me hope. When I read stories like that, it gives me hope that.
Yeah, well, and I think it's like I think the thing to do is like find a fundamental truth and test it against different scales.
Yeah,
right?
you gotta be able to test and take risks. Like
and you have to be okay with not getting a lot of attention at first too.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's like the most important part.
You can't let that bring you down.
Well, I think it's like you test one theory against one level of scale. So it's like, okay, can I say something that one other person resonates with? Yeah. Or I actually start with, can I say something that I don't think is stupid? You know, can I personally say something and I'm like, oh, that's a dumb idea.
Like you believe in it.
Yeah, you personally, you know, it's like, okay, I can believe in that. That's one person, right? And you test it with another person. And when they tell you it's stupid, because it probably is, you change it a little bit. And then you change it until...
But it might say, ask someone who you trust and value their opinion, because that person might be stupid.
Well, and that won't bullshit you, you know?
Yes, someone that will tell you the truth and won't bullshit you. I do think that's important. Like somebody like
and it's like, you're probably going to have a bad idea. Yeah. Actually, you're for sure.
Have a lot of bad ideas.
I think most ideas that I have are bad, you know, but some are good. And it's like, okay, so you test it against one other person likes it, great. And then it's like, okay, maybe 10 people. I'm going to try 10 people next. It's like, okay, I'm going to test this idea against 10 people, and then, okay, it worked with 10 people, and then I'm going to try 1,000, you know?
Yeah.
And then you just keep going until you're 1 million, 2 million, everybody, you know? It's like, but it doesn't start, it starts with you personally being like...
Putting yourself out on the limb a little bit.
Well, and being the kind of person that would choose to be doing that instead of going out and going to a club or playing video games or like facing resistance, essentially, you know, like procrastinating.
Resistance. I was reading A War of Art.
Right.
Yeah, all about resistance, also in fishing for elephants.
Yeah.
Once you're aware of resistance, it's almost like you have to be aware. It's like, okay, right now I'm facing resistance. And like, you know, I'm sure everyone has gone through this where they're like, I don't want to fucking paint right now. Like, oh my God, like, why is painting so hard? And like all these thoughts go through.
Right.
And I think for me, the latest revelation I've been going through is that painting it's not just, I think I said this earlier, but it's not just emotional and it's spontaneous. Like for me, it's becoming more and more slow and like marinating and methodical, kind of methodical, but like very cerebral as well. And I'm like, wow, art is so amazing that way. That's why art has, I feel like, never disappeared. Like it makes us feel something that I feel like not really anything. And I'm talking about art's not just painting, like everything creative. Yeah, like writing or singing or dancing, music, dancing,
rapping.
A rapid, something that, comes from within you. It's irreplaceable.
Yeah, well, and it's like, I think people feel self-conscious sometimes about not having a specific calling in the world. Like, I hear people all the time like, I could never be an artist.
I hate it when people say that.
And I hate when people say, I can only draw stick figures.
Yeah, I find it all the time.
Honestly, when I was traveling around Europe, even Peru, even like all around the country, it's a universal joke that everyone says. It's so strange.
Have you ever said someone, well, maybe it's because you didn't fucking try?
yeah, maybe because you just didn't put in the fucking work.
Put in the work first and then get back to me.
Yeah, right. And I don't know. I think it's like, again, that's why I'm saying it's like the only problem to solve actually is, like, what do you have to say specifically?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. What's your intent? What do you have to say?
Well,
that's definitely the first question.
I mentioned I mention this in every podcast too, but I equate learning the technical side of art as learning the technical side of speaking and punctuation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what an independent clause is. I don't know, much about Shakespeare.
That too.
I have no idea, but we can speak perfectly fine English, and people are going to listen to this. It's like, okay, we can speak well enough to say what we want to say, and maybe learning more would stop us from actually being creative. And maybe it's like it's not about how good you are; it's about what you're saying specifically. Like, so do you follow the Proca TV Instagram at all, or
yeah?
Did you see the ball sack thing?
I don't think I saw that
one.
Sorry, I have barely been on Instagram. Show me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's caused a ruckus.
A ball sack?
So it's from Beeple. He's like a very controversial, absurd artist, but it's like completely insane.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So here, I'll show people for. Sorry if you didn't want to see that, but like, so I managed the Proca TV Instagram, and I was talking to Stan about it last night or something. It's like, hey, we should share this thing because it's like, okay, the image of it itself is absurd. I would never draw anything like it, but it says something more existentially than just this is a cool image.
Yeah.
It's like it's more of a meta, like I think Instagram is stupid. It's like we can post whatever we want. We don't have to necessarily post things that people are going to resonate with.
Right.
Like Beeple's entire thing is like just being as absurd as possible, just to.
What's his intent? I'm curious, as I don't know.
So Beeple's been doing some like those like 3D renders for like 15 years straight or something, every single day.
I don't know anything about this artist. So.
I think you'd like his reasoning behind it because he's.
I'm curious, like what his intent is.
He's so controversial and he's so disciplined, and he's like a crazy artist. He's been doing it every day for 15 years. Even when his kids are born, he still does these dailies. And he's become this extremely dedicated artist, and he does all this absurd art, and it's like I feel like a lot of people get caught up in the idea of just making art that they know people will like.
Yeah. That drives me.
It's like on Instagram you see tons of portraits and tons of things that are like, okay, that's probably going to get likes. Like a pretty girl from a famous TV show, probably going to get likes, right? Yeah. It's not that risky.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what Beeple's doing is it's completely insane.
It's like so insane that people.
Yeah. It's like it's like how far can you go without Okay. And he's testing the boundaries every day.
That's cool.
And it's like, I think to me that's way more artistic than just drawing a thing that people
will get.
Yeah. It's like to me art is something art is not something that's meant to make people feel good. It's meant to make people question themselves and who they are and like what they want to say.
Definitely.
And I'm going to try and fix this light.
Okay. Yeah, it seems to be really bothering you.
Yeah, it's like...
How do you know it's casting a...
Well, so if you want to look at I guess you can see how it's...
Oh! I didn't know you could see that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I guess like, if there's a way to do it up here. Sorry, I'm like...
All good.
Self-conscious.
Is it...
I guess I'm just being like insecure. My face is so ugly.
Oh my god! I totally get it.
Okay, maybe we can. How do we? Because I think if we put it on your side, well, you'll be having the same problem. Or actually, can we hang it?
Yeah.
Right here.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, wait. Let's see.
Oh
shit.
Here.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay. Oh yeah, that works. Cool. Let's see if okay, wait. Do you want to go? Okay. I think it's fine. Okay, whatever. Yeah. The downside of doing this is that eventually. So you can see that more. Okay. Yeah. Whatever.
Is that a softer light on you now?
Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. Sorry.
Do I look good?
Here. Well, do you want to check? I guess
No,
it's hard.
I don't know
It's hard
how.
to check. But
That's fine.
yeah, this one doesn't have a camera.
Yeah.
Though, so. But yeah, no. Sorry for the tangent, everyone.
No.
Yeah, no. I think it's like when I look at people that are really struggling with like the idea of how do I get into a studio? How do I,
It's always those same questions. Like people feel like I feel like people feel like there's a very clear cut step. Like, oh, I go to college, and after that I have to get a job in a studio, and then this and then and that. And then like there's so many more routes or roots. Roots. Yeah.
I think they're both correct.
Oh,
It's like tomato.
I pronounce a lot of words wrong.
Yeah.
Even though I'm born.
Yeah.
Roots, and like each, I feel like as long as you put your effort and your and you try to extract the most that you can from an experience, you can take solace that you gain something from that experience. Like for me, not a lot of people know, because I'm kind of embarrassed when I say it, but after I graduated from college, I was working on a game. It was like my ex-boyfriend's game. We got picked up by a company, and then after that they went bankrupt, blah blah blah, and then I was without a job, and so I was doing all these markets and stuff. And then I was so desperate. I was like, I told my best friend, I was like, she was working at PsyUp, a production company. And I was like, can you get me any job there? Like, I'll take anything. She's like, there's a PA opening. And I was like, sure, I'll take a PA job. So I was a PA for maybe 4 months before I went to Loving Vincent and I moved to Poland. But that job actually taught me a lot. Like, I actually enjoy that side of, I like organizing and all that stuff. And I was running a lot of errands for people and stuff. But what it taught me was that even because I wasn't doing art for that job. Do I look at you, or do I look here still?
Sorry.
Sorry. My attention keeps getting sick.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Should I look here, or should I look here?
I just look at me, I guess.
But you're not, so should I just keep looking?
No, I guess when I move, you could totally fine just to follow.
Follow you?
Yeah.
Okay, I just don't know how it looks on the...
Sorry.
But, I learned that, when I wasn't doing art, when I wasn't doing art for my day job, I found I had more energy to do art on the side.
Yeah.
And then it was completely vice versa when I had a job that was related to art, and then I had no energy to do my own art. It was really weird. So, but I still learned a lot from that job. I did enjoy it, and then, every job can teach you something, regardless if it's not art related or not. And I think it's up to people to find value in that.
Absolutely.
And not to be like, oh, I felt like I work at, I don't have an art job, or
I'm at a grocery store. It's like, and I was talking with a buddy about this, where Rembert, who I went to Peru with, he worked, he was advising people, like, don't try to become an artist in 2 years. You want to be okay getting a grocery store job, just bagging groceries and doing art in your free time, and take as much time.
He works at Riot, right?
Yeah, he works at Riot now. He's like does really cool art. I think he's a brilliant artist.
And he said, don't be
so hard on yourself. It's like take the time you need. It's totally okay. No one's judging you.
Take the time you need. Exactly. Like, I feel like people think there's this deadline, or there's this time frame you need to get a job. After this, or after you graduate or something. But like you said, it's about taking the time that you need to get good at your craft.
Well, and the people that are judging you for it, or at least you think are judging you, they're fucking pieces of shit. You should not be listening to them. Like,
they're probably insecure themselves.
Exactly. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, I've been around a lot of successful people, and I know for a fact that people,
what have you learned from that?
People still get depressed.
From
a more realistic and less optimistic, like, it's a bummer, but everyone's life is filled with suffering. no matter who you are, whether you're Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or us or whoever. It's like your parents are probably going to die in your lifetime. That's a bummer. Your dog's going to die. You might get cancer, right? It's like, okay, all these things might happen to you. And it's like, okay, if you go down all the list of things that can happen to somebody, eventually you're going to get to one that's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what do you do about that? Would you like that you're going to die, and that Bill Gates is going to die. You're going to end in the same spot. So why does it matter where he's at and where you're at? It shouldn't really fundamentally. And I think when we do, we lose sight of what I define as God. It's like we have the ability to wake up and see sunshine and see the beauty in the world, but a lot of the time we choose not to. We'll choose to be self-conscious. We'll choose to be
we take so many things that it's so easy to take the things for granted.
Yeah.
Again,
I mean, it's like we have running water. It's a miracle.
The little things.
In Peru, you can't drink the water because you will get a stomach bug. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about that. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Things like that. And I think that's what one thing traveling does.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been to so many places, and you probably see how there's some things like here it's like, wow, I had it really easy there, and it's like, wow, it's a lot harder here, or maybe, I don't know, vice versa or something.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things, like when people tell me like, what's something really important, like sometimes I feel like artists don't take the time out to travel and like expand their worldview, and I think that's super important to be able to expand, because that will fuel you as an artist.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about sitting in front of your computer and outputting so much.
And doing head exercises or doing studies or something. It's like, I think people should really be thinking more about what they're actually saying with their art versus how good it is. Because if art is just a communication device, it's like, I've seen 1 billion really good figure studies. It's not that impressive. Like, you just do it for a couple years and you get good enough at it. There's actually a roadmap. There are people that can tell you how to do that. There are people that charge, and you could pay money to tell you how to do that. It's not that rare.
That's the hard part after you learn. I do think there's a time where you do need to learn the technical stuff, and then after that it becomes like, okay, how do I use all those skills and those technical things that I learned to be able to tell and create what I want to share with my art.
Absolutely.
And then that becomes all hard, because I find out it's like art is all about, it's like you learn all this stuff and then suddenly it becomes all about unlearning everything. Like that's what I've realized.
Absolutely.
Like when I'm painting, I'm like, how do I get all this stuff out of my head so that it's not
getting in the way.
Getting in the way of me just
creating, right?
Creating. Yeah, and it's so, what's the word, paradoxical that way?
Yeah. Well,
oxymoron. I don't know which one it is.
Ironic.
Yeah, it's so ironic that way. It's like art is, it's like you learn to unlearn.
Yeah.
And then, all these rules that we learn, they're helpful. Like, I don't know, composition, rule of thirds. Obviously, yes. Like, right now I'm kind of restudying composition and all that stuff for landscape painting, and I'm learning a lot. And at the same time, it's like then you study these masters, it's like, wow, they broke that rule so well, or this rule that well. And like Edgar Payne breaks these rules of value that we all know. Yeah. And it's so cool to see that, but they do it, so smartly too. And it's so, and the other thing I realized that, just like you form relationships with people, I feel like painting is all about, like you're forming a relationship between colors, between values and all that stuff. And I feel like once you look at it that way versus like, oh my gosh, it's this step, then this step, this step, which is why I really don't like videos that go like, first you do this step, then you do this step, because there's not one way to create a painting.
Absolutely.
Like it's once you learn all that, then it's time to unlearn all that. I like to look at it more as like, how do you find these relationships within the shapes in your painting or within the colors? Even just one dot can make such a difference, or a line or something, like all that symphony of line, shape, value, edge coming and so much more coming together. And I'm sure it's the same with you, like when there's so many parallels in life, like when you meet people and you deal with people of different personalities, you learn how to navigate around them, and you learn something about them, and you probably take away something small that they can influencing your life.
Well,
and
and,
vice versa.
and you learn stuff about yourself, like.
Oh yeah, that's the most valuable thing.
And it's like you learn that it's like like again, it's like the suffering thing. It's like you learn that people are pretty much all the same.
Yeah, we all suffer to some.
And we're all just seeking validation.
Yeah.
That's all we really want is validation.
Yeah.
It's just different ways of achieving it. It's like some people.
I don't know why that is.
I think it's just. Well, I was talking to a buddy about this. It's not bad. It's like it's okay to seek validation. It's just how you go about doing it. Like doing heroin is probably a bad way to seek validation. It's probably really awesome, So you probably get a lot of validation.
How do you seek validation through heroin?
Because
I've never done drugs.
Well, I guess it's like it just forces that, those chemicals that would make you feel validated to just come out. It's like
interesting.
Yeah, or like.
It's like you feel good and pumped.
Well, I've never done cocaine, but I have friends who've done it, and they tell me it's like, you think your ideas are really good for like 30 minutes.
You feel more alert is what I've seen in movies, right?
But it's like it like makes you feel validated. It allows you to pay more attention to the things in front of you,
But it's temporary.
But it's temporary, and it's not, it's almost like a ex machina. It's like cheating. It's like a cheat code in a video game.
I think so, yeah.
And it's like, and I was like, hierarchies do exist. It's like, and you should strive to be better. It's like
what do you mean by hierarchy?
Like, even like when you walk into a room, it's like there are artists and there are better artists and worse artists.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's like that is a hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's like I would rather hang that person's art on my wall than that person. I don't. That's not a judgment of their character or their personality. It's just a judgment of like, that exists. It's like. And that is a reality.
If everyone was the same, it'd be quite boring.
Yeah. It's like there should be a value hierarchy.
Yeah.
And like thinking about it that way, it's like okay, I actually have to try and be better. I actually have to try. That does matter.
It does matter.
And once you start actually acknowledging that those things matter, then like, and also not letting it deter you, that's the idea of like the dragon in mythology. It's like you see this thing that's like, oh shit, like that person's better than me. Am I going to be bummed out about it? Am I gonna let that?
That's a choice right there too.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, maybe it's braver for a bad artist to go and try and like go into a classroom and present their work in front of everyone, rather than the great artist who knows that they're going to be validated. They know that they're going to get the approval on the good grade or whatever else. They know they're going to sell their painting. Maybe the more respectable thing is the person that might not do well actually trying.
But trying. It's all about taking risks.
Yeah. I'm going to move the slide up here actually.
Okay.
Let's see how that looks.
Yeah, maybe a more central light might be better.
Yeah, I think it.
The podcast could be like 50 different changes.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I mean it's getting dark, so it's gonna be hard. It's harder to light, but I think that's fine.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think it's again, I mean, when I look at this podcast, I mean, going back to like why is it important to me to live in a van and drive around? Like, why was it important? Because I could have just done Zoom calls, It would have been way easier to just do Zoom calls.
That's boring.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, there's something about me actually being in this 20 square foot space and living in it for 10 months, driving to Minnesota or New York or wherever, actually physically being there with the person and talking with them, It's like, I think there's something about that that's like, okay, that might not add anything to the conversation, but it does just because it's
well, I think talking to you, it's because like you actively put yourself in discomfort, which is cool. Like that's something obviously most people wouldn't do. It's like, why would I do that? But if you have figured out that you can learn something,
right,
or learn something about yourself from that, and I think that's really admirable.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
And I think, and that's the same with art. Like for example, like you said, people tend to paint the same things over and over again. I see it all the time. Like some artists I admire now, their styles evolve. You can see that over time because they're trying new things. But it's also much safer to paint the same subject matter or the same style because it's sellable and people know you for that.
Right.
And it's very easy to get in that niche. But what about the opposite? What about just going off a whim of something?
Yeah.
Because something inside calls you and that you have to do it, and it doesn't matter what people will think or say.
Right.
Like, it goes back to validation. sometimes we seek the validation of others so much. Like, or do we really feel validated by ourselves? You know, like, we kind of forget that sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I think like you actively seek discomfort. And I think you've learned a lot from that.
Absolutely. And I don't consider myself a great draftsman or anything, but I feel like I've become a lot better of an artist than I was before, just being in art school doing drawing exercises, because I'm challenged by the world often. And I'm not saying that to like boost my own ego. It's more of like you don't have anything to say until you have experiences.
Yeah.
You know,
oh,
shit,
definitely.
You know?
Yeah. Like, I mean, you say you're not a great draftsman, but art isn't just about being a drawer. Like, I read in Linchpin by Seth Godin, like he talks about art being like how you have a conversation with someone, like how you carry yourself with people. That could be an art itself. And that really opened my eyes to, wow, like art is happening everywhere. Like how you deal with a customer and how you make them feel welcome in your coffee shop or something. Like that's an art. It's not just actually painting, you know, the more literal or stereotypical sense that we know it. Yeah. But I mean, you could consider yourself an artist that way, I think.
Oh, I think I do. And
and you can find validation in that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like going like, damn, like Christian gets to travel all over his van, like that's so cool. It's always like grass is greener on their side.
Absolutely.
That's one thing I've found out.
It's like, I you know, it is awesome, but you know, there are dark sides. I have talked about it on my podcast, but it's like
everything has a dark side.
Very lonely.
That too. Yeah. You're alone with your thoughts, like the worst.
Well, and it's like in my darker moments, I'm like, oh, I live in a van. I'm a loser, you know.
Yeah.
It's like,
those thoughts definitely would come.
It's not. You know, of course, that's like a reasonable thought to have.
But you chose that. That's
exactly.
the difference.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
You made a conscious choice, and you're and I think that makes a big difference.
And I think the thing that causes trauma in people's lives is discomfort that's not chosen, right? It's like if you get hit by a car, you know, that's like, you might see that as a growing moment, but you probably didn't choose that. Or you have to like run, like you live 10 miles from home and there's an emergency at home, so you have to run home or something. It's like that might be a traumatic experience, you know. But if you choose to be uncomfortable, you know, and you go and actively face it and choose to do that over something else, it becomes like, you know.
Now let me ask you, in those moments, let's say, okay, it's very hard to find a positive outcome, and if someone hit or like oh crap, I have to run home now and get something. Do you feel like a person can still choose to glean something positive from those moments? Because I'm sure you felt that in your vein. Like there's probably moments where you're like screw all this stuff, like blah blah blah. But in those moments, you know, I'm curious if you tried to find something that you could still not learn but appreciate or something.
Well, and I think
if you remember those
moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I absolutely do. And the answer is always yes, but it takes a sacrifice. It takes like a letting go of your ego.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I'm a loser in a van, but what if this helps me just get over the idea of being a loser in general, you know? It's like, if I live in a van and I chose to do this, it's like, oh, I have no one else to blame but myself, so I can just enjoy this, you know, and just accept it, you know?
Interesting, yeah.
And like, again, I think the idea of God, or whatever way that means.
Are you religious?
Sort of. I believe in God, but...
Were you grown up in a religious family?
I'm a confirmed Catholic, but I don't consider myself a Catholic.
I grew up in a Christian family, but... Yeah,
I'm more of I'm spiritual.
Yeah, I would say I'm like
but I believe in God. And when I say that, I don't mean that lightly. I mean that as like a very... Every time I say that, I mean it as seriously as I possibly can. You know, because saying you actually believe in God is a really, really tough thing to actually believe in.
Yeah.
It's really like, you know, I think, you know, I don't believe it all the time, really, just based on my actions. But if you really do believe in God, that means you believe.
It's a very tough thing to uphold.
Well, it's like you believe that there's a higher and lower moral. You believe that there is good and evil, right?
Yeah.
So that means when you knowingly do things that aren't good for you, you're knowingly committing evil, you know?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Did we lock the front door? But we can see it, so never mind. Sorry, I'm sorry. I totally.
No, it's totally fine.
Because I thought I was thirsty, and then I thought my water bottle was up there. I'm so sorry, Christian.
Yeah, all good. Do you want to lock it real quick, or make sure?
Yeah, actually, can I bring my bag here? I just want to be
for sure.
safe.
Yeah. But it's like if you say you believe in God, that means you believe in a higher and lower power, you know, And if you really do believe that, if you say you believe that and actually live by it, that means you're saying it's like, okay, when I like think a negative thought about somebody, I'm actually doing evil, you know, I'm making the world a worse place, you know. And saying that is like, oh shit, like knowing, like the example that I use is that I haven't been vegetarian recently because I feel bad about it. I wish I had more willpower, but I was a vegetarian for like a year and a half.
Oh, a vegetarian.
Vegetarian,
Okay, yeah.
For like a year and a half, 2 years or something. But I was a vegetarian, but I wasn't a vegan, which means I acknowledge that eating meat is bad. I think it's unethical, actually, but not so much to where
you would go all the way.
I'm willing to give up ice cream. You know, I like ice cream more than
cheese.
Yeah, and being, it's like, okay, like that bodily, pleasure I get from eating ice cream is more. I like that more than being evil. You know, I'm willing to be evil just to have that thing. You know.
Evil is a strong word, but...
Well, I guess unethical, it's like, there is suffering as a result of eating ice cream, you know?
You know what's interesting? I was listening to a podcast yesterday on Business Wars, and the guy was interviewing, I think he was Wall Street Journal, but anyways, this guy did a article about chocolate and how actually unenvironmentally friendly making chocolate, because it takes up all the fields.
Right.
The carbon footprint is terrible.
Yeah.
You think you're saying Mars? The Mars chocolate bar? I think that's what.
Mars bar?
Yeah, the Mars bar, the carbon footprint is as big as Panama alone.
Yeah.
And that's just the Mars chocolate bar.
Yeah, of course.
And it's insane. And then, so the interviewer, he was asking him, so did you, after knowing all this and researching, did you cut out chocolate?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I still do like a lot of chocolate. And, like, let me ask you, like, how did you get to work? And the interview was like, well, by car. And so, like, his point was, like, we still do things one way or another. If we cut out something, we're probably still doing something else that's not helping the environment or it's unethical or whatever. And it's impossible to cut out everything. And I thought his answer was interesting.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's a very important thing because, so, again, I'm not a Christian. I think this is a useful analogy, though. The idea of original sin is more the idea that no matter who you are, you can't get away from being immoral, you know? It's like... Yeah. It's like, you could say you're against slavery, but then the clothes that we are wearing right now were made by people being paid 12 cents an hour, or 12 cents a day in China, you know? It's like, okay, that's unethical, but I'm still wearing those clothes. So it's like, okay, I'm definitely flawed, you know? Yeah. In a perfect world, I could just do nothing but grow my own food and live in the mountains and affect no one else. Yeah. But that's not, that's not what I'm doing. Yeah. You know? It's like, okay.
So you have to choose your battles, essentially.
Oh, and you also have to be like, I think once you accept that God is real and actually exists, you can accept that you are flawed. You can accept your own limitations, you know? It's like, I'm not perfect, you know? It's like, I'm going to continue to do things that aren't in the name of whatever I believe the ideal me would be doing, you know? And not let that affect who you are, like not let that, maybe beating yourself up over it is actually causing more harm than good, you know? And you're like...
Acceptance is always the first thing, isn't it? Like, I feel like that's so important.
Absolutely.
People go straight to judging or being like, oh, that's so bad, or like, I did this, oh, why did I do that, like, I need to be better. But
and I think those thoughts fundamentally come from two things. It's like seeking validation, it's like, because if you were better, then maybe those people that told you to be better would not say that you're bad, and I think it's just like a lack of faith, a lack of a belief in a God, it's like, again, I think it's important to acknowledge, I'm not trying to push God on people, but it's important to determine whether you're an atheist or not, and it's like determining, it's like, okay, is there a power above the things that I worship, it's like, and when I say worship, I don't mean like going to and praying.
A shrine and praying.
I mean, it's like the way you spend your time. It's like if you go to art school every day and you go to figure drawing every day and you're doing all these studies, you're worshiping art, Is there a thing higher than that for you, And once you acknowledge yes or no, then it's like, oh, it's like, it's not as serious as I thought it was. It's not as, important than the pursuit of good, in whatever way that means, It's kind of like a really abstract idea, but
Did that happen to you where you asked yourself like something you thought was more important than you thought it was, or
Yeah,
vice versa?
yeah. I mean, it's like, I told you I struggle with a lot of social anxiety, you know, and it's like once I acknowledge, like, oh, there's something more than me, you know, I'm
something
not,
more than you.
yeah, it's something more. Like, I'm not the most important thing. It's like, oh, that anxiety disappeared.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
like I can, like, live with freedom because I'm like not as important as I thought I was. I can let go of my ego. I can let go of my identity.
It's letting
you
go
know?
of the ego.
It's like, it's not that important that I'm a millionaire. It's not that important that I have hundreds of thousands of followers.
It's like that burden is just released from you. You
right.
don't. Yeah, I get that. I felt that too. Yeah.
And it's like there's a thought experiment from Friedrich Nietzsche that's something like,
Yeah.
imagine that, so you die at some point, but then at the end of the universe, it just restarts and everything plays over again exactly the way it played out. Imagine your life. Is it a life that you'd want to live exactly every day until the end of existence, you know? It's like forever, right? And if the answer is no, then you should fucking change your life, you know? Seriously.
Yeah. People
you
don't
know.
stop to think about that.
Well, and the idea of heaven and hell is more of like, okay, it's not like you go to the pearly gates or you know, pitchforks and devils and demons and stuff. It's more of like, you know, if
you trapped in your thoughts. Or,
well, I mean, you know, hell would be like you living a life you don't want to live until the end of eternity. You know, if the life that you're living right now, if you had to live it forever, is that hell? If you don't want to, that's hell, right? If it is something you'd want to live in forever, that's heaven. You know.
Yeah.
At least the ideas of them, you know.
There's a movie, the one with Robin Williams, Life is Beautiful.
Yeah.
Kind of talks about that a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I think a big part of being a person, and I guess just getting rid of all that ego. You know, it's like, I think when people can actually talk about this, like actually communicate these ideas that we're talking about with paintings, that's when that's beautiful art.
So do you think the best artists have gotten rid of their ego?
I think so. I mean, I don't know them, but the artists that I like, yes, you know, which is a really it's a difficult question to answer, you know.
Yes.
Because again, it's like no one is perfect, and there's no one that is completely transcended that.
Yeah, that has like completely let go of it. Unless they lived in like a Buddhist shrine and meditated.
But even then, they might be doing that out of like, oh, I'm better than everyone else. All those people are, you know, pursuing money, and I'm doing the right thing, and they're you know, it's like
yeah, it could always go the other way.
Yeah.
I feel like there's always maybe I'll let that airplane pass.
Sorry.
Probably sorry. Yeah, I feel like it's always kind of walking that yin and that yang, that fine line.
Yeah, chaos and order.
Yeah, exactly. I read in Jordan Peterson's book, the 12. Wow, I almost blanked out on the 12 Rules of Life. Yeah, I love that
Antidote
book.
to Chaos.
Yeah. And I never looked at the yin and yang that way, but apparently I think, and I read this book a while back, but the line in the middle is like what you should walk, but obviously it's really hard because it's a line.
Right.
But you need both. And then who's that quote by? I forgot who said it, but you know the quote where it's like, if you give people cake to eat, they'll get bored eventually, and then find
Carl Jung or Nietzsche.
like, and then they'll just wreak havoc.
I think the quote was like, if you gave people nothing but cake and
they would,
and they could, all they had to do was busy themselves with the existence of humanity, they would destroy it in a second.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's totally true. It's like humans,
so true.
Humans are meant to struggle, you know.
Yeah. It's almost like we need a
chaos. We need,
chaos.
like, again, it's like, you know, I think that I tell people that want to ask advice from me is to plan your day, your perfect day exactly if you were the perfect person, or at least what you perceive the perfect version of yourself to be.
Gosh.
And it's like maybe you get up at 5 a.m. and you go for a 10-mile run, and then you eat nothing but like oatmeal and protein powder, and then you go and read a book for 3 hours, then you go to work and you're extremely productive all day, and you end at 7 p.m. and then, you know, maybe you hang out with...
It sounds exhausting.
Yeah, but it's like, how long do you do that for before you're like, I want to go play some video games, you know, or I want to go and like be lazy, you know?
Well, I think that's where variety is important.
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, like at home right now, sorry if I say like a lot, but I think for me, my goal right now is to wake up at 6. Actually, no, 5:30.
Yeah.
And I used to like have so much trouble falling asleep.
Yeah.
And I would wake up maybe around 8 or 9, and now I've slowly been able to kind of make the schedule that I want.
Yeah.
And so I used to wake up, and then I'd read for 2 hours, and then I would go about my day. And now I realize that it's nice, and then I work out at night. But now I realize it's so, like, your variety is so important to keep your body kind of guessing.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'll wake up, I'll read a little bit, but then I have to time myself because I could read for hours. And then I work out in the morning, get that over with. And that makes you almost feel like you're more productive the rest of the day because I don't have to worry about working out the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And so it's like these little minor switch ups that can kind of make you realize new things, like, oh, I realize I'm happier when I do it this way. Or I feel much more awake when I just change up these two things.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's about being willing to switch up your routine sometimes. Sometimes people get so set in routine. But I think a healthy balance of, like, having, like you said, like, knowing what makes you happy, knowing what, I don't know if we're kind of going off topic, but knowing when you're most productive.
Well, and I think that's the idea of knowing yourself.
Yeah, knowing yourself, exactly. And but you can't know yourself unless I feel like you try different things and you go, that doesn't work for me, and this works for me, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people get caught, like, when you hear the idea, oh, you have to go learn about yourself. It sounds corny. It sounds cheesy. It's like, it's
the hardest thing to learn about yourself.
Well, but it's like, what does it, like, maybe
what does that entail?
Well, and it's like, maybe, like, learning about yourself is seeing how you'd react if you had $1 million, or seeing how you'd react if you were completely homeless. You know, seeing how you would react in all these different situations, and seeing if you, like, seeing what comes out of that. Like, what do you pan out of the filter, you know?
Yeah. Do you react negatively? Do you freak out? Actually, I've had this idea. I've wanted to try so bad. And maybe I'll do it one day, but I've wanted to sit in the street for one day and just see who would pay attention. Like, I would look like a ragged homeless person,
absolutely.
and I've wanted to do this. Also, you know, the fact that I wanted to live in a van, I've wanted to go backpacking. Like, I really do. I like putting myself in challenges. I think that's actually very fun to me.
Absolutely.
Like, I find it thrilling. Whereas most people are like, no, I just want to be in my home watching video games. I'm like, no, I get restless really fast.
Yeah, I do too. As Stan.
Yeah. Like, I was like, I need something to stimulate myself.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to try that and see if I would be more cynical about people, or, like, I think you told me, or I can't remember if I heard it. I heard it on your podcast with Marshall. You're saying how your bike got stuck, and then in New York, and then this guy came out and helped you.
Oh yeah.
And, like, that experience alone, and I've had that before too, so I know what you mean. Like, that can change your view of
everyone's
people.
So kind. Yeah.
Yeah, like you think people are always out for themselves, but one person can just change your little bubble for you, and like, you're like, wow, people are nicer, and then that can influence you know, you to pass on a kind act to someone. And I don't think people should underestimate the power of that, you know. Like, one person, even just giving a smile to someone, can do so much to someone else, and then they can pass it on and stuff like that. But
it can have a profound effect.
Yeah. And I think nowadays, like, I don't know, I feel like the culture's like, people are just, it's like, for yourself, like, watch out for yourself. I mean, maybe not, maybe I tend to have a very cynical world, but it's like, take time out of your day to not go out to do something nice, but
to just change your worldview, like, to change it up, like,
change a little bit,
to do something that you're afraid of, you know. Like, even in a small way, you know. It's like, maybe you're afraid of, like, you know, even deviating from your Starbucks order, you know. Seriously,
trying a new things like that too, like going to a new restaurant or something.
That's brave, you know. Again, it's all relative, you know. It's like, I mean, I rode my bike from San Diego to San Luis Obispo once.
Yeah, that's
like
crazy.
450 miles, but
that's so cool.
Well, relative to the people that are dedicating their lives to it, that's nothing. You know, it's people ride 18,000 miles in a few months. You know, it's like the world record around the world is 240 miles a day for 80 days straight.
Wow.
So it's like,
how much?
240 miles a day for 80 days straight.
Oh my gosh.
Which is like,
that's insane.
I mean, LA to San Diego is 150 miles. So
they were doing more than that.
Yeah, by like
day. But double that.
Yeah, but like double that. And it's like, okay, you know, I did 450 miles in a week. Okay, am I a loser, or, you know, am I just, you know, relatively, like, you know, just not as dedicated to cycling long distance?
Well, you're not a cycler, but you still did something out of your comfort zone. Yeah. So that's.
And again, it's like, there are two ways of looking at that. It's like, oh shit, like, I thought I was a badass cyclist, and then I could be like, oh, I should just quit because this person's way better than me. I was like, oh, I can do something. Like, I'll never do
or
that.
you can use it as motivation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like,
what is it? Their quote. I think someone told me like there's always someone who would do it better than you.
yeah.
It's like once you know that, it's like the whole thing you said earlier. It's a relief. You know,
Yeah.
if you know someone's better than you, instead of using that as negativity, be like, well, I know there's someone better than me, but I can be a better version myself.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, strive for that.
Well, and maybe my place isn't being the best cyclist. Maybe it's like bringing cycling to people that normally wouldn't pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
Which is still very valid, and I think that like, it's still scary for me. It's still like I spent a week alone doing like 50 miles a day on it. I average out 50 miles, but longest day was like 100 miles or something.
Gosh,
completely by myself.
I can't even. I feel like a loser. I've never tried that.
Yeah, but it's like.
I would like to.
Do you know Zach Retz?
Yeah.
We're gonna cycle from San Diego to LA at some point.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Do you want to join us?
I don't even have a bike.
You could figure it out.
I can figure it out. Yeah. No, that'd be.
Yeah, I was gonna make a YouTube video about it. So.
Yeah, you should. Are you gonna do like a GoPro?
I think so. Yeah, I made another one I did a New York to Syracuse.
Oh wow.
A while ago,
and
I made a little art video or cycling video about it. But yeah, you should totally fucking join us. That'd be sick.
Yeah, that'd be
Super
cool.
fun.
I have to get a bike and see about that.
Yeah. Try and get a small group of artists to,
That'd be super cool. How long would that take?
150 miles. We're gonna do it either in a day or 2 days.
Oh, in a day?
Yeah.
Wow.
So start at like 5 a.m. and don't stop until maybe go till like 2 a.m. or something.
2 a.m.
Yeah. So just go as long.
Don't stop.
Yeah,
Gosh, I don't want to.
Just like, and it's like, it would be painful. It would suck, But
How's that? Isn't that like dangerous? Biking at night? Honestly, I don't.
Yes, I've done some pretty dumb stuff on the.
I'm gonna honestly say I think I need to practice biking first.
Well, I'm pretty out of shape, and it's
not the out of shape thing.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm more absent-minded, and I'm gonna get hit by a car.
Well, so most car accidents on bike actually happen in individual cycling. So when you're in a group, your odds of being hit go down exponentially.
Oh, okay.
Like by 90%. Like
that's interesting.
Like 5% are group, and then 95% are just single.
Okay. Probably because I see you more.
Yeah, and then it's again, it goes back down to the idea of breaking things down. It's like, okay, doing 100 miles in a day sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds like a lot, but if you think about it, it's like, okay, you're going 12 miles per hour. You wake up at 6 a.m. You do 2 hours. You've gone 24 miles, and then you eat breakfast, take a break, take a nap or something, and then go another 2 hours, and it's 10 o'clock at that point, and you've gone 48 miles. You take a break.
Breaking it down, perspective.
Well, and then you do another 2 hours after that, and you've gone, so what's 48 plus 24?
Yeah.
72,
Yeah.
So you've gone 72 miles, and it's only noon, You do another 2 hours.
Are you cycling in fatigue?
I guess if your body is used to it, no. But if you are, yes, for sure.
So it's like you decrease like 3 miles every section.
So, the hardest part. I guess when I was doing those rides, like, you really get in tune with your body. You really do. It's like your diet, and like if you hadn't eaten, like, if you go to the office and you haven't eaten, you might get grumpy, but you don't really realize how tired and grumpy you are. But if you're exercising and you are doing 100 miles and you don't have any food, you'll feel like you're going to pass out, and then you have like a candy bar and you're like, oh shit, I feel great. I feel amazing,
Pushing your body to limits is like you think what you need.
And then you like just eat a Cliff Bar and you're like, oh,
this is actually all I need.
Yeah, right. And like the fuel that you're putting in your body actually has an effect on who you are, like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You also get to eat a lot more. Like on these trips, I eat like tons of candy, and like.
Because you just burn it all off.
Like piles of pancakes and.
Oh wow. After you finish the whole thing?
No, like during. So it's like.
But don't you feel heavy?
No.
Oh.
Because you're, I guess you do it after like 50 miles. You're still like, so you still need the energy, but then you're still like you burned a lot. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I must say I'm pretty naive in this.
I am too. I'm like I haven't done that much compared to a lot of people, but.
But so is cycling one of your passions?
I love it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do.
Okay.
And it's more about the like driving you go really fast, you don't really get to see that much. But
Right.
cycling, you get to like look at stuff. You get to stop. You know, walking is too slow.
I was gonna ask about walking.
Well, walking is way too slow.
Way too slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess cycling would be the medium.
And
Yeah.
it's more comfortable. It's like.
Does
you
your
know.
butt get sore after a while?
It's actually the worst part is your neck and your arms.
Oh,
'Cause,
okay.
like you get used to the constant exertion of your legs, but then when you're if you're doing high mileage in a day, you're on it for like 6 to 8 hours or something. So
Right.
like you're just like, you know.
I guess you could say that's no different from doing a road trip and sitting on your ass the whole time.
Yeah, right. Actually, it's probably worse than a road trip.
Yeah, probably you're like cramped and yeah.
Can't can't stop or anything.
Yeah. I did that. I went to New Mexico earlier last year in New Mexico, and then I didn't count going back to Arizona. The time difference, so it actually like took way longer, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I
fucking
can't!"
Damn it.
Ugh,
Yeah,
I hate this. I'm so cramped.
Yeah. Again, it's like a, you know, if somebody can get over the physical discomforts of their life, which is, I'm not saying it's easy, it's actually really hard, then an entire world of meaning opens up to you.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, you know, maybe you don't like being cold, and maybe that stops you from going and painting pictures that you would love and find a lot of meaning out of, you know. And a lot of other people might find a lot of meaning out of, you know, all because you don't like being cold, or because you don't like being hot, or you don't like, you know, sand in your shoes, you know. Because you're not willing to face that physical discomfort, you're robbing yourself and the world of this painting that you could create, you know, all because you're like, I don't like sand, you know, which is fucking lame to me, you know. I understand why, but it's like...
Interesting that it's robbing the world. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, do you think the mind gives up way faster than the body?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think
That's what I'm
if
finding
we
out,
wanted to, we could go and run a marathon right now. If we were determined enough.
Our mind just goes, no.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it, for sure, but it's like, you know.
The mind is so interesting. Like, I was reading this book called Predictably Rational. Actually, Mike from Poco recommended it to me. And there's this chapter on placebos, and basically your mind can trick you into thinking that you feel better, even though there's been tons of experiments in the medical field where they have a control group.
I'm sorry, that died.
It's okay.
Here.
I forgot what I was.
And
like
placebo?
Placebos, and basically like there'd be people who actually got the surgery and people who didn't get the surgery, and people who didn't get the surgery, they didn't know they didn't get the surgery, but they would still report that they felt better.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as like taking a $2 aspirin versus a 10-cent aspirin, and people for some reason think like, oh, I'm healed at 10.
Right.
But then if it's cheaper, it's like, oh, I don't think it's working very well, and the whole time they're giving them vitamin C pills.
Right.
So it's so interesting to me.
Yeah, well, again, it's all about mindset, you know. And have you ever read Man's Search for Meaning? Have you heard of that book?
No,
Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh no, I haven't. No.
It's by a guy named Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
Jordan Peterson talks about him a lot.
Okay.
Viktor Frankl was a victim of the Holocaust.
Oh.
And he didn't die, but you know, he went and his entire family was killed. And
I think I know what you're talking about.
he talks about finding meaning, being in the Holocaust. You know, having everything that he values taken away from him.
Yeah.
And still, like, it's not great, but he still finds a reason to survive. It's not happy, but it's meaning.
I think I know what you're talking. I thought it was called something else.
Maybe. You know, he quotes Carl Jung, and it's like...
No, yeah, I know. I think I know what story you're talking about, though.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you know, again, there are people that I was hanging out like a couple weeks ago in Peru that are dirt poor. You know, it's like they don't have.
And they're
anything.
happy.
Yeah, they're happier than a lot of people I know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, it's not money.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, right. It's not. You can check that off the list.
Yeah. You know. And maybe often the pursuit of money is the thing that detracts from people being truly fulfilled.
I think so.
You know?
I still. I know you need money to like achieve certain things, but I think I'll always stand firm that when you have too much of it, just like with anything, it holds you down. It becomes a trap because that's all you can think about.
Well, and it's like maybe that's where you get all of your validation from. You know, maybe it's dangerous because it's like, oh, once I have $1 billion, then maybe no one around me tells me the truth because they want my money, you know? That's dangerous.
That's true.
Yeah, that does happen.
That's
you know?
true.
It's like the Naked King story.
Yeah.
It's like the wardrobe.
Yeah, the where he doesn't have clothes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like and anyone who says that he is naked is an idiot or something, you know? And like, you know, I don't know. It's like those hierarchies are so weird to me. Like, that mentor of mine who is worth all like $300 million, he's like, I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. You know, he's still self-conscious.
I find it interesting how you have to say that he's worth 300 million.
Yeah,
to emphasize that, even though he's worth a lot.
He's so like he's like hit the pinnacle of like value, and he's still like his friends are worth billions of dollars. You know.
You know what I read? Also, it reminds me in the same book that it's like about hierarchy, because once you make a specific amount of money, it's like then you're in this upper echelon, and then you're still comparing.
Yeah. Right.
Yourself with all those people who have, I know nothing about cars. Let's say you have a Tesla and everyone has a Lamborghini, whatever. I don't know. But like, it's like you can always compare yourself to someone. You know,
Yeah.
we talked about this earlier. So I forgot who this guy worked for, but he's like it was Google. I forgot which one. It was a big company. One of the first things he did was he sold his car and just got a Prius.
Right.
So he didn't even have a chance to compare himself. And I was like, that's really smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. like you're not letting yourself, you know, go for the bait.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Whatever.
Yeah, and it is bait, you know.
Sorry, but
like
you're saying about your friends. So all his friends are worth billions, and he's.
Well, and it's like, you know.
And he's not happy.
Well, it's not that he's not happy. It's like you still try to pursue scale. It's like when everyone around you is, you know, solving world hunger, or they're curing malaria, or they're like doing some cool tech thing, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm making another video game, or I'm like, you know, doing this thing. It's like, oh, they're operating at a way bigger scale than me. I'm a loser. I could be doing way more, you know? Which is, again, both a good and bad impulse, but that's just part of being a person. It's like, you know, eventually you just get to a point to where there's nothing that you can do that is perfect, you know, that is completely ethically sound.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I don't,
and there's no final state of being either, you know? There's no finished versions of either of us that are, you know.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to Stan about this. Like, you know, he's done really well. He has millions of subscribers and you know, comfortable life. But he's like, I don't care about that. Like, once you get it, it's boring. Like, it's like
I've always wondered about that, because like I'm in the phase where like, oh, I want to build up my YouTube and all this stuff. And it was funny because I was listening to your talk with Marco, and he's always like, gosh, like why can't my video go viral? Like why can't I'm like, I actually Instagram it, and I was like, Marco, I feel totally the same way. Like I've always felt like an underdog, and like, why does this person whose art I personally think is crap gets like 1 million likes, and like here I am like trying to put out valuable content. I mean, I think it is, and it's like, you know, 100 views or whatever. I mean, it might get a little more than that, but and you know, in the end, it's like, do I believe in the content I'm putting out? And the answer is yes, and I can keep going. But
and I guess there's something Elon Musk said where it's like the science that he was doing at 21 is the same science he's doing now. It's just at different scales, you know. And I think it's important to find something that you'd be saying even if you were a multi-billionaire or whatever, you know, have all the money in the world. Because I think that's the thing that actually makes you like your fortune, or makes you like have the meaning in your life that you want. You know? Again, using Proco as an example.
Yeah. Well, so what did he say after that? So he's like, I don't care.
It's about the creative process. You know?
Oh, okay.
It's like, you know, like because you have more money, you can invest more into doing crazier projects. So instead of like focusing all this time on the editing side of it, or the sides of it that you don't want to do, you could just focus on being creative. You know, you have more.
It frees up some of your time.
What?
Like for him, it frees up.
Yeah, it frees up. Like, oh, I can like, I can just focus more time on other aspects of my life as well. Like he can have kids. He can, you know, spend more time with his wife. He can like, you know, go swimming. It's like, okay, you know, okay, that's the reason to make money. But after that, it's like, you know, a really good meal tastes the same whether you're poor or rich, you know.
Yeah.
Like a $300 steak, it doesn't get much better after $300. You know, it's like,
or it could be worse.
yeah, right. I really like Rubio's. I like Rubio's a lot, and I think no matter what, I would probably go to Rubio's to eat food.
Why?
Because it's good, you know.
But what did they give you that you specifically choose Rubios over
convenience?
Like any other Mexican.
Well, it's like if you're worth
like Chipotle.
I like the walk to Rubio's. That's
okay,
nice.
So it's close to you.
It's
it
close.
creates some memories for you.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, there's a ritual there.
Wait, I know which Rubio's you're talking about.
Yeah.
The one by Mary Mace, the one by the across the theater by Starbucks. Wait, no.
The one near Proco.
Oh, never mind. I'm thinking about Mary Mesa.
Actually, I've been to that one too.
I think it went away.
No, it's still there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, near the Home Depot.
Is there Rubio's near Proco?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, you know, anyone that's listening to this podcast right now, like, you're doing this for a reason. Like, you know, we've been talking for like an hour and 45 minutes, and the people that have gone to this point where they're listening to this specific thing, they could have been like jet skiing. They could have been like doing literally anything else, but instead they chose to do this. And I think it's important to think about, like, you know, that value, that like you made a value judgment. Anyone, like, again, you're here.
I appreciate it if you have stuck here. That means maybe
we're
saying something that resonates with you. So thank you.
Yeah, something. Well, but it's like even us. It's like, okay, we could be doing anything else, but instead we're recording this podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, why is that? You know, and it's like, I would rather I've gotten a lot more validation recording these podcasts than I ever did by pursuing money. You know, I've had a lot of opportunities to earn a lot of money. I just never took them because I'm an idiot, and because I just didn't want to. You know, it's like, okay, you know, maybe it's just part of who I am. Like, I really want to do things like a really specific way. You know,
I think that people. I'm a firm believer that I think when you find value in something, you pursue it, the money will come in one way or another because you put in the effort.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah, sure, your podcast don't make you money, but if they bring you joy, like that's really, I think that's really important.
Yeah,
like, I would never want to be stuck at a job that I don't enjoy just because I get status. Like, I know for me that does not cut it for me. I cannot work at a 9 to 6 job for like years on straight.
Yeah. I love how it's become 9 to 6, not 9 to 5.
Is it 9 to 5 or 9 to 6?
Well, I mean,
let's just say 9 to 5.
Yeah,
for me, it's 6 to 4. No, 6 to 2. I'm just kidding. No, like, yeah, like, you know, you've been true to yourself, you know, and it's about, like, I told you I had that talk with one of my friends, and like, I realized with her, I'm not going to say who, but with her, she realized that it was really important that she has that status. She's like, status is really important to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's good that you realized that. And then for me, I told her I realized that I don't know, like, it's sometimes I have the thought, no. What was I trying to say? Where was it that I read? I can never remember, but I read somewhere that you know that you're in a good place when you. Oh, I know. It was Patrick Bet-David's book, Your Next 5 Moves, is a business book.
Right.
I read it earlier this year, and he said, you know, you're in a good place when you are honest with yourself and you don't envy or you like want to be in the other person's situation. That's when you know you're honest. And I was like, and I realized at that point, I was like, you know, I think for me it's like, sometimes I think it would be nice, like, go from studio to studio, and like, and it'd be good for me too as a teacher, like, oh, I'll have this like rep, like, you're learning from a teacher who's worked at Pixar, Disney, Sony, blah blah blah. Maybe I won't ever get those opportunities. Am I okay with that? I think I am.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and again, if you look at Marco or Stan, or, you know, like, I know Stan for sure has not had those things.
Yeah, and that's why I resonate with his, but also with the story of, like, you know, he used to live at home and then he grew his business. Like, I really resonate with that. Marco as well. Yeah. Like, we're so similar. Anyone
can fucking do it, man. Just, like, put yourself out there. Say things of value, you know?
Yeah, like, you don't have to have that. Because I can, actually, I've asked myself this, and I've asked myself, you know, if I have a pretty diverse experience of, you know, working on a game as a concept artist, and then working as a PA, and then going to Poland and working Loving Vincent, and then doing fine art, teaching workshops, and I've traveled teaching workshops, and I got a taste of that. And then, you know, it's like, one can say, okay, either I've hopped all over the place, or I've tried a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've experienced a lot. And when I looked back, I would not change any of it. Like, if someone offered you a job at Disney, would you take that over Loving Vincent? I was like, no. No, never. Because experiences I got from that are priceless, and they actually changed my whole trajectory.
Yeah. Well, and I think working at Disney now is lame compared to working on Loving Vincent, because it's
thank you.
Well, I think that's like a.
It didn't get me any jobs, but I definitely.
I think it's like a cooler project. I mean, it's riskier. It's like crazier.
It was definitely risky. I mean, I probably got cancer from working on that film.
Yeah. Yeah. From all the oil.
From all the oil paint and stuff. But it's not just even the film itself, but. Yeah. It's like forming the relationships that you made with all the people from all around the world. Like that, like every time, I don't know if you talk to people who've worked in, I mean, obviously you have, but I don't know if you've seen a trend where they say, yeah, the film didn't do good, but my team was great.
Oh, for sure.
They always talk about the team. Yeah. Or they go, the film did good, but I hated working on that production. It was just so tight. And,
absolutely.
And they remember the relationships more than the actual film.
Yeah, well, and it's...
Which I find really interesting.
I think at a certain point, like, if you're working on a Disney film or your own personal project, the actual day-to-day of it is actually pretty much the same. You're just drawing pictures, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if the work you're doing is the same at all scales, what matters is the experience.
Is the people, is the experience.
Because you actually, if you're trying to make a really big thing, you have no control, really, over the outcome.
You don't. Like, especially more corporate it is.
I mean, if you're working on a Disney thing, no matter how good of a character sheet you do, it's not going to determine if the movie is good or bad.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's actually a really horrible way of gaining confidence in yourself, because one, you're tying the validation of yourself and your career to the success of the project you're working on, and two, you'll never own the artwork that you're known for.
Yeah.
Like, I know tons of artists that I really admire who don't own the bulk of the work that they're known for. You know.
Yeah.
It's like it's owned by...
That's an interesting aspect.
It's like, okay, you know, it's sad. You know, it's like the thing you've dedicated your life to is owned by somebody else. 7 years
to a production for your director.
Yeah, it goes into often it goes into a filing cabinet somewhere. It's like
an art of book distilled into a... I love those books, but...
Yeah, it's like, I don't know the name. I see it as the art of Star Wars, not the art of this specific person.
Right.
You know? And I mean, I think about like that Beeple photo I shared.
Yeah.
Started more of a conversation between more people than any artwork that I've seen this year.
I'm curious what people said about it.
So normally our posts get like 20 comments or 10 comments or 5 comments depending on how popular it is. This one has like 205 comments or something.
How much?
205.
Holy crap, what are people saying?
They're like, this is so ridiculous, why'd you do this?
Are they angry?
A lot of people are.
You took a big risk.
Yeah.
This guy posted it. If you want it, they're angry.
I convinced Stan to do it. I suggested it.
He's like, sure, go for it, whatever.
No, well, we talked about it.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, okay, if art again is like
doesn't create a conversation,
then what is it?
Yeah,
you know? It's meant to be challenging. Like, and that's what that piece is. It's challenging. It's like, it's not something I want to look at every day, but it's like, where does this go?
Why are people offended?
I understand why, and like, so I'm very particular about what I put in my feed on Instagram. You know, I'm very, like, I follow people, I unfollow people, I hide people's, you know, it's like I'm very, and if I were to be following this Instagram that I trust for a while and they post something that's ridiculous,
you'll unfollow them.
And it's like, oh, they broke my trust. You know, it's like, oh, they posted this stuff for a long time and now they do a left turn and post something absurd. You know, I understand that perspective, which I think I don't agree with it. You know, I think that if you're following an artist page, they should be able to post whatever they want. You know, whatever they like. It's not for you. You know, it's not for the person. You know? But I guess that's why people are angry. You know.
Oh, like they're used to.
Yeah, it's like they're used to,
something.
You know,
yeah,
like, that's a good figure study. That's a good portrait. That's a, you know.
That's something you post, a heart-shaped ball.
Yeah, right. yeah. Guy lifting a barbell with his ball sack. It's like, what
yeah. Honestly, there's like music videos that basically show porn, so whatever.
Yeah, well, I think it's ironic. Well, a lot of people want to go and work on violent video games. You know, it's like, okay, the ball sack thing is absurd, but
there's so many more things that are more absurd.
Yeah, like cutting somebody in half with a chainsaw. Is that more absurd?
Yeah.
You know, is that worse?
Yeah.
It's like, for a lot of people, no, and it's like, why is that? You know?
There's certain things where I'm just like I don't watch music videos, but I think it was what's that girl's name? Cardi B. Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
like her.
Yeah.
God, there's like one video where she's basically, it was like porno.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Right.
I was like, this is allowed? Like,
Yeah, right.
how are kids watching? Like, that stuff is absurd to me.
Yeah, yeah. And
I'm
again,
a little more conservative in that realm, but it's just
Well,
like,
and
what is this kind of shit just being out there?
Well, I guess it's like, I think that's a conversation worth having. It's like, okay, maybe you and Cardi B should sit down and talk about
No,
it. You know?
there's no way I'm talking to her. No,
Well,
no.
I guess that's like the more chaotic side of me is like, I think that like, you know, there is a place for Cardi B doing that kind of stuff in the same way there's a place for,
yeah.
like, you know, like, I guess everyone's voice is valid is what I'm trying to say.
All right.
You know, and you know, Cardi B should be able to make ridiculous videos, and I just won't watch them. You know, it's like
That's true. Yeah, they're not to watch them.
You know, again, I disagree with it fundamentally too, but
It doesn't mean they can't do it.
And I guess it's more of an expression of freedom of speech, you know.
Yeah.
Or and maybe there's some argument for women empowerment or something, or you know. I don't know which video you're talking about, so
I don't even know.
I'm playing devil's advocate.
It might not even be her. It was someone. I think it was her, but
Nicki Minaj or something.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's the world is strange. I think,
very strange.
Yeah.
We must and then navigate ourselves through it.
Yeah. I think we've been going for about 2 hours.
Oh wow,
so.
yeah.
Do you wanna tell people how to follow you?
Sure. What do I say? Just follow where you can follow me?
Yeah. Your Instagram.
Okay.
Facebook, YouTube.
Do I look at the camera?
I guess so. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go.
So, if you guys enjoyed this podcast, I hope you did. I really enjoyed talking with Christian. If you want to give me a follow, I most update my Instagram at Tiffanie Mang Art, and that is TIFFANIE, not Y. Mang, MANG Art. I have a personal Facebook, but I'm not on that at all, and you can reach out to me at tiffaniemangart@gmail.com. And I also have a growing YouTube channel, which if you just search Tiffanie Mang or Tiffanie Mang Art, you should find me. My logo is a TM with a yellow background.
And people should learn color from Tiffanie. She's a really good painter.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you want to learn gouache and digital painting, I have YouTube videos on that. I'm making a course for Proco about gouache painting. Can I say that?
Yeah.
I'm making a course for Proco about gouache painting that will be released in the next year. So lots of exciting things coming. But yeah, I love all things painting and art, landscapes, and I love color and design. So
nice, cool.
I sounded creepy. Okay.
No, okay, right here. Nice, cool. Okay, I'll cut it there.